the epicenter of college basketball seemingly every year, and this season starts no different as we welcome you inside Cameron Indoor Stadium with the Blue Devils in prime position to take that #1 ranking come Monday. But one thing stands in their path, and that's the back-to-back Sun Belt champions, Georgia State Panthers. Hi, everyone. Alongside Corey Alexander, I'm Jay Alter. Different year, same Duke. The Blue Devils, another strong start, but they are winning a little bit with a different style.
Well, the different style is they're doing it on the defensive end of the floor this year. We've always gotten accustomed to Duke being such great offensive teams when you think Marvin Bagley III, Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett. But this team led by Tre Jones is a much better defensive team.
And you said led by Tre Jones. He was questionable coming into this game because of the hit he took Tuesday against Central Arkansas. And whenever the head is involved with a collision, you want to be extra careful. Well, he was cleared fully by the Duke medical staff. He is in the starting lineup tonight, and that is a big boost to this Blue Devils team.
Well, it's a big boost because Tre is their leader on both ends of the floor. His scoring is up 15 points in both of his first 2 games before the injury. But, of course, a young man who led the ACC in assist-to-turnover ratio, actually breaking a freshman record that his brother Tyus held. So when you think about Tre Jones, everything starts with him and finishes with him for the Duke Blue Devils.
He kept his sense of humor. Coach K asked him after the game, "What's my name?" And he replied quickly, "Michael." That's a bold move when you're talking about the boss.
I'm sure that's probably the first time that someone has called Coach K Michael, especially one of his players, in about the 40 years that he's been here.
Duke in the home white, Georgia State in blue. A Friday night in Cameron Indoor Stadium with a win. The Blue Devils likely the #1 team in America come Monday. Vernon Carey and Joe Jones for the tip, and we are underway. 2 freshmen get us started, and immediately a turnover from Duke. A 3 off the mark from Matthew Hurt.
One of the things you see with the Blue Devils, they want to play fast, both ends of the floor, and 2 immediate turnovers already, although the Blue Devils give it back. Maybe a frenetic pace early in this game, but Duke already forcing 2 turnovers, and that's the area where they really become special and turning those turnovers into points on the offensive end of the floor.
They cash in with Vernon Carey to open the scoring. Through 3 games, the Blue Devils have forced 8 more turnovers than their opponents have made baskets, and they already have 3 tonight.
And 3 possessions, 3 turnovers for the Panthers, and that's one of the things that haunted Rob Lanier's team against the College of Charleston in their road game earlier this week. 19 turnovers for them there in the game where they only lost by 1 possession. So that's one of the areas where they can't afford to do that here because it could get out of hand early if you do that against the Blue Devils.
Both of these teams play with a quick tempo. They both defensively give full court pressure. So you better have fresh legs because both of these teams are ready to run tonight.
And one of the things we talked with Coach K about earlier today is the fact that they feed off of these turnovers. This is a Duke team that loves to get out in the passing lanes, reminiscent of the 1991-1992 national championship teams with Grant Hill on the wing and Thomas Hill, Brian Davis, were anchored by Christian Laettner in the middle and Bobby Hurley out front. And they used to make it to where it was virtually impossible for you to run your offense. And that's that's the way that this team is built, and Coach K is constructing this team to put that level of pressure on the basketball defensively.
Cassius Stanley comes up empty from the foul line. When you start talking about the early 90s and Duke Blue Devil basketball, fans get very happy. Georgia State drills a 3. Kane Williams to take the lead. Quickly the other way, Matthew Hurt, but he lost the handle.
A defensive breakdown by Georgia State, but fortunately they were able to escape. And that's one of the areas of concern that Kane Williams knocking down the 3, and that's one that he was 4 for 18 against College of Charleston. So a good sign for Rob Lanier, seeing his preseason All-Sun Belt player getting off to a good start.
Alex O'Connell off the mark on a triple. This is a Georgia State team that's been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. They play with confidence. Goaltending, that'll be another bucket for the Panthers. And yes, they're missing their head coach that brought them to those tournaments. Yes, they're missing a lot of those players, but they put on the jersey and they do have the confidence that they can compete with anyone.
But you see Alex O'Connell getting beat, head turn, and that's one of the areas when you play in the passing lanes the way that Duke does, you're susceptible to back cuts. If there's no one there to help you out, it could lead to easy baskets for the opponent.
And after Georgia State had 3 turnovers on their first 3 possessions, they've really settled in to this Cameron crowd.
And the Duke has had its issues early already with turnovers itself. So one of the things that they're going to have to clean up, and especially here when you're on your home court, but they know that Georgia State is going to apply that same pressure. And talking to Rob Lanier, he told us we're not going to slow down because we're here playing against Duke. We have a tremendous amount of respect for the Blue Devils, but at the same time, we're trying to build a program. And so in building that program, Rob Lanier doesn't want to change up what they do early. He wants to make sure they come out and be aggressive.
A long-time Rick Barnes assistant. This is his second stint as a head coach. He was with Siena in the early 2000s. And he said he loves this team because they are not going to back down to anybody so far. That's the recipe here against number 2 Duke.
Yeah, the Duke staff told us that as well. They knew that the Panthers would come in here prepared to play and aggressive, that they knew they would not back down at all.
Trey Jones heads to the foul line. Rob Lanier, yes, he'll bring a new identity. He'll make his mark at Georgia State, but does not want to change the culture of winning that was established here before him.
Well, Rob Lanier is a winner, no question about that. I actually was a part of a co-champion ACC squad when he coached with Dave Lato at the University of Virginia in 2006. He didn't win at Duke that year. He made it clear to us, but they were able to beat Duke at home with Sean Singletary with the buzzer beater. And Rob Lanier, of course, tremendous respect for Coach K and this program, but he doesn't want his team to come in and looking at the rafters. He wants to make sure they come in and compete.
This is Kane Williams driving right into the heart of the Duke defense. Can't come up with the make. Quickly out to Trey Jones. They called Jones for a push-off. It'll be Georgia State basketball, and we'll get a really good look at the Blue Devils with a full-court pressure pickup.
Well, then this had to be called because this was called against Trey Jones on the defensive end of this just a couple possessions ago for the 3rd turnover for Georgia State. So the officials were doing a great job being consistent with that call, but one of the things you don't want if you're Duke, you do not want number 3 picking up that 2nd foul here early in the first half. There's a tremendous drop-off when he has to leave the game for the Blue Devils.
Corey Allen fading away, misfires. Quickly up the court, the Blue Devils go. The spin cycle, but rejected. Cassius Stanley, everything but the finish. Both of these teams get into attack mode extremely quick. Extra pass, open 3, no good. And Carey pulls down the board.
And another back door that set up an opportunity. Georgia State unable to take advantage of it.
Air ball from Cassius Stanley, but in perfect position, Matthew Hurt cleans it up.
Cassius Stanley not used to seeing many of his shots not going in. Young man coming in, shooting over 80% from the field. So uncharacteristically missing a shot.
Grabs the rebound there. A lot of that comes down to good shot selection, which is rare from a freshman.
It really is. And Cassius, of course, 5 for 5 in their last game against Central Arkansas. But has done a great job all season long playing within himself and taking the shots that are best for him. He's capable, a very capable three-point shooter. Doesn't like the result of that last one, but knocked down a huge 3 versus Kansas.
Cameron Crazies look to claim their first victim tonight. Justin Roberts inbounds it safely to Corey Allen. Now Georgia State only trailing a point 4 minutes into this first half. After 3 turnovers on their first 3 possessions, they have yet to commit another turnover tonight. Damon Wilson, hard to the hole. But Jack White was there. Great pass, open three, Moore can't connect.
And that's one of the areas of concern for Duke this year is where will they get their perimeter scoring from?
There's another takeaway. Jones for three. He's got it.
And that would be a great candidate. Trey Jones, an improved shooter, worked on his shot a lot over the summer and taking advantage of opportunities early. Pushing it on the break. Trey Jones, three ball, corner pocket to give the Blue Devils a 9-5 lead, much to the delight of Rob Lanier.
Georgia State first-year head coach Rob Lanier was first a head coach as a 31-year-old at Siena, but 15 years in between his first head coaching job and now Georgia State. He was in Virginia, and then Billy Donovan had a lot of success with him in Florida for the last 8 years, both Texas and Tennessee. He's been Rick Barnes' top assistant.
And Rob Lanier, one of the better men in this business, of course, extremely revered by many of his colleagues in the college coaching profession, and just a great guy to be around, and more importantly, is a leader amongst young men. Talk to us today about, how when he got his first job, he wanted to be a superstar coach. And coming full circle, now the second opportunity for him to be a head coach, it's more about leading young men and creating better young men.
He told us, if nothing else, my men will be fearless today. And not many can say that coming in to a building like Cameron Indoor. This is Josh Linder at the foul line. Was terrific in the loss earlier this week to College of Charleston. 19 points, 12 rebounds to lead the Panthers. A guy who was a role player a year ago and has now stepped up for this Georgia State team.
And talking to the coaching staff, this is a guy that coming to Georgia State was probably, we wouldn't even say as high as considered to be a project. And now you got a young man going out on the road getting 19 and 12 at the College of Charleston, and a big part of what Georgia State plans to do this year. Just like shooting the three is a big part as to what Trey Jones plans to do this year. The second three for Trey this evening.
Sophomore buries another one. Really balanced scoring from this Duke team. They scored 105 points Tuesday night, and yet not a single player had 20 or more. So they could hurt you so many different ways.
And now you see Jordan Goldwire on the floor with Trey Jones. This is actually the backcourt that Coach K started in their opener versus Kansas. And when you see that, now you see Trey Jones with the ability to play off the basketball a little bit, and he's improved his shot. You can see a much better looking release from Trey Jones than what you would have seen a year ago for him, and much more confidence in his ability to knock shots down from beyond the arc.
That's really the only thing holding him back from being a terrific NBA player is a consistent three-point threat. Open again. This time can't connect, but Vernon Carey there for the follow flush.
And that's special. Vernon Carey quick off the floor with the offensive rebound, gathering it. And once again, quick to be able to turn that offensive rebound into 2 points.
Josh Linder follows his own shot. And this Georgia State team, relentless. They're not making it easy for Duke early in this game.
And the Blue Devils were expecting that. Coach K in their shoot-around actually talked about the fact that he knew they would not be scared. But the advantage Duke has, once again, on the interior, Vernon Carey coming up with the second offensive rebound in 2 possessions and an opportunity to add to that second chance points total.
So Vernon Carey Jr. steps to the foul line. His father, Vernon Carey Sr., first-round pick by the Dolphins, played for 8 years after winning a national championship at the U in Miami. What do you like most about his game?
Well, one thing about Vernon, and you see what he's been able to do on the glass, but he is not the typical big. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor, can shoot it from beyond the arc, And what he's done since he's been here at Duke, he shed 15 pounds off of himself, becoming in much better shape. And now when he gets to a point to where he can consistently go out and give them, 30-plus minutes at this top level, he becomes a special player in this league. And I think we will see that just watching him right now trying to defend the perimeter. That's something you wouldn't have seen from Vernon in high school. But Coach K's kind of lit a fire underneath him since he's gotten here to Duke. And he's definitely, performing well.
Already has 6 rebounds early in this game. They go right back to Carey. Everything but the finish there from the freshman. And quickly up the floor is Georgia State. They like to run just as much as Duke. The 3 off the mark. Carey just lost the handle there. Both of these teams will continue to push the tempo, but you have to be careful that it doesn't border on out of control.
Well, that's one of the things that Georgia State is concerned about. They know that they have speed, but that speed oftentimes can get them into trouble. So that speed was part of the reason why they had 19 turnovers at the College of Charleston in their game earlier this week. And that's one of the things that Rob Lanier wants to avoid, is making sure they don't go too fast, especially with the adrenaline that's pumping when you got the camera crazies over there waving their fingers at you. Those are called spirit fingers, right?
And they are out and about on a Friday night here in Durham. But Georgia State not backing down, only trailing by 3.
Nice play there by Corey Allen and using his body to get in. Now a turnover by Duke, and this is one of the areas when you got a young team, they're susceptible to that as well.
Kane Williams in transition, scoop to the hoop, and it's a 1-point game. This is a Duke team. Again, they want to speed their opponent up. They've forced more turnovers than their opponents have made baskets this season, but Georgia State, they're used to playing fast. That might not fear them like other opponents so far this season.
And when Duke's not scoring on one end of the floor, it's giving Georgia State those opportunities to get out in transition, whether it's off a rebound or a turnover, and they've been able to take advantage of those to make this the one-possession game.
Poked away. 2-on-1 for the Blue Devils. Up and down. Cassius Stanley. Couldn't deliver the big finish dunk, but it counts all the same.
Well, it's finished enough because Cassius Stanley doing a great job of corralling that one. It may not be Zion, but he's Zion-like when you're talking about the athletic ability of Cassius Stanley going way above the rim. There's no problem for this freshman.
Both of these teams play at really fast pace. It can lead to turnovers, and Mike Krzyzewski not happy about it. His team with 5 early ones. Georgia State has 6. And it's a young team. They've made some freshman mistakes early, not taking care of the basketball.
But Duke has made a living this year off turning over the opponent and getting out in transition. But Georgia State has done a good job of doing the same thing to Duke in this game, and that's the one area of concern for Coach K. He's expecting for his team to be a better ball handling team, and I'm communicating that to his players on the sideline.
He's Corey Alexander. I'm Jay Alter. We spoke with Coach K before the game, and he said, look, each of the 4 opponents we've had this year have presented a different problem. This is certainly the fastest tempo that we will face so far this season, and it's led to turnovers. There's another one.
This is the interesting part. Can Georgia State turn it into points on the other end of the floor?
No, they give it right back. Turnovers continue to be the story early here, and Trey Jones cashes in on the other end.
And it's one thing to turn it over versus Duke, and it's something completely different to turn it over and allow the basketball to end up in the hands of Trey Jones, because you could pretty much expect a surefire 2 if he gets it, because he's going to make plays for himself or his teammates at a high rate.
He was questionable coming into this game. After a collision on Tuesday night, he's off to a quick 10 points. But there's your answer. Damon Wilson drills the three.
A big bucket for Damon Wilson, who's played here before, a transfer from Pittsburgh. So Damon Wilson, not foreign territory for him to come here and perform in front of the camera crazies. And he's one of those guys that we knew wasn't going to be scared. Just like my guy Trey Jones, no longer afraid to shoot that three. His third on the evening.
Fires right back, leads all scorers with 13. Almost had another pick six there. Instead, blocked underneath. It's a game of hot potato right now. Somehow kept alive and somehow finds the bottom of the net thanks to Jalen Thomas. Quick the other way, big finish, Vernon Carey. Carey and Jones have combined for 20 of the Blue Devils' 24. Jones, pull-up pop. Can't hit this time. Flying in. The finish not there. Blocked from behind. That was a 15 to shoot.
That was a feel-good shot for Trey Jones right there. He's knocked down three already. The pull-up in transition.
Stanley misfires from the corner. The carry called on the DePaul transfer, Justin Roberts.
Great pass by Trey Jones, finding Vernon Carey running over the top. And we've gotten used to watching the Blue Devils get out in transition and finish on the other end of the floor. It's just a different cast of characters, but still the same Blue Devils in transition.
Now, Jones coming back for his sophomore season has really been the heartbeat of this Duke team. And when he plays like he has so far tonight, this Duke team will be very difficult to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually had the opportunity to spend some time with he and his mother, Debbie, in Minnesota over Final Four weekend. And leaving them we actually were at a Timberwolves game where his brother Tyus was playing, and leaving them at that game, I wasn't sure he was coming back to Duke. You know, he did say he was coming back because he had class on Monday, but I wasn't sure he was going to be playing for the Blue Devils again this year, and happy he made the decision to do so. And, of course, I believe that, in my opinion, the Blue Devils are the best team in the ACC and one of the best teams in the country because of his presence. That's the one thing that very few of the top teams have is a point guard like a Trey Jones. Michigan State has one in Cassius Stanley. Looking forward to seeing Cassius Winston. Cassius Stanley plays for Duke. But I'm looking forward to seeing that battle between probably the two best point guards in college basketball on December the 3rd.
How do you think having older brother Tyus already go through that process, the jump to the NBA, impacted his decision?
Oh, it's tremendous. But older brother is one part. Mom is something completely different because she's been through it. And she understands what was the right move for him and what was not. And again, the decision was a family decision on both their part. And great to see him back here. And of course, he's much improved. The way he's shooting the basketball this year, he didn't do that a year ago. And much improved, and I believe he will definitely have raised his draft stock by the time this season ends.
Wendell Moore Jr. into traffic, lost the handle. A lot of turnovers, 17 already between these two teams. Panthers only trailing by 6. Ivory step back, can't hit it. Into Carey. Big move, a lot of contact, no call. Tapped around, Panthers have it. Pushing the tempo like they've done all night and earning another bucket.
But you see there, you're talking about getting up and down the floor and running. Roberts unable to finish, but you have Jones coming in and finishing that up for him and outrunning the Duke bigs. And right now, we're seeing fatigue from Vernon Carey on the interior. We talked about him getting himself into shape, but I'm not sure if he's ready to play those long stretches quite yet.
We step aside again. Credit Georgia State. Only down 4 despite Trey Jones with 13 early. Coming up after us, college basketball continues, and you don't have to go far. Tobacco Road right down at number 6 North Carolina, taking on Gardner-Webb and Chapel Hill on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Cole Anthony may just be the best player in college basketball. I know it's early. Corey Alexander, Jay Arms are with you. Corey, nobody's more familiar with his skill set than you are,
which is why I won't comment on that statement you just made.
But I
could be considered biased.
But I want to pose this question to you. Trey Jones has been terrific tonight, 13 points already. Coach K said he's the best on-ball defender they may have had here at Duke in his 40 years. Bob Cousy, point guard of the year candidate. It'll pretty much come down to Jones and Anthony.
Well, no, I can't say that, because you also got to consider, Cassius Winston. There are a number of other very good point guards out there that will be in that mix. But, when you start talking ACC Player of the Year, that could very well come down to Cole Anthony, Trey Jones, and you got to throw Jordan Moore some love in that as well. But when you look at Cole Anthony and what he's been able to do, his opening game, 34 points, put North Carolina on his back. The difference between the two is Cole Anthony's usage rate may set an all-time record in college basketball for all that he will have to do for North Carolina this year. This is not the same North Carolina that you saw a year ago when you had 3 first-round draft picks on that team. Cole Anthony does not have the tools around him that Kobe White had. And so, that's what's going to be the biggest difference between the two of them. But Cole Anthony has a lot more on his shoulders for his team to be successful than Trey Jones does.
Officials seeing if the ball hit the rim and where the shot clock should be at.
So that would be a no.
Yeah, it didn't look like it hit it to me.
Well, it does hit it on this side. It depends upon. Yeah, the ball did hit the rim on that second one. So it does reset to 20. New rule, of course, in college basketball this season, which I love.
Oh, it's terrific. The problem is we've already seen you can't get your shot off early like that for a 3 to pull Georgia State within 1. A lot of shot clock violations because guys think they have the extra 10 seconds.
But when you look at it, think about the way that Georgia State started off this game with 3 straight turnovers, and now they're within 1 point once again, especially after the stellar play of Trey Jones and what he's been able to do, as well as Vernon Carey. But one of the things that you have to think about is, and we've seen one number 1 team go down already this week. And so the number 2 team playing here at home, the longer this game stays competitive with a veteran Georgia State team, the more danger Duke can find itself in.
Driving for the lead and an opportunity to take it at the foul line. Kane Williams, the junior, has played fearless tonight.
And Kane Williams, and Coach K talked about Kane Williams, Damian Wilson, these guys being left-handed, how left-hand dominant they was. He wants to send them to their right, but Kane Williams too quick on that possession, finding his way to that left hand and able to get to the free throw line for an opportunity to take the lead.
Rattles home, tied at 25. But Javid Delorier out of this game. He's picked up 4 fouls already tonight as Georgia State seeks the foul shot and goes in front. Their first lead since it was 5-4.
And that's a big foul, because when we talked earlier about Vernon Carey and how many minutes he actually can play, and again, Vernon's gotten himself into great shape. He can play 30-plus minutes in this game, but the luxury for this Duke team this year is their depth and being able to have Javid Delorier coming off the bench, providing that spark defensively. Also the leadership.
Open 3, Goldwire. Can't bury it. Great offensive rebound by the Australian Jack White. Right back inside, Carey couldn't slam it down. Jones picks the pocket and immediately fouled.
And when you watch Duke play, it's just interesting to see how many turnovers come up in the hands of Tre Jones. Whether it's a steal or whether it's a deflection from one of his teammates and him coming up with the basketball and getting out into transition. You know, and when I talked about Cole Anthony having more on his shoulders, that's because he doesn't have as much of talent around him. But Tre Jones still carries a huge load for this Duke team to be successful, because what he has to add to his game this year that he didn't have to do a year ago is score. So he most likely will be their leading scorer as well as assist, and of course their steals guy.
This is the front end of the 1-and-1, and then a collision between two Blue Devils. Jones driving to the basket, and he ran into Joey Baker. That was Duke on Duke crime underneath. And again, Jones collided and hit his head earlier this week against Central Arkansas. Was cleared to play fully, but when he goes down again, obviously everybody will hold their breath.
It's scary to see that, and you see both guys. Tre Jones' head hitting Joey Baker's, it looks like shoulder.
Yeah, left shoulder.
But Baker coming up as though he took more punishment in that mix.
And Tre just shakes it off and stays in the game.
Well, and consider this. Tre had the same thing happen in their game early in the week versus Central Arkansas, but they were up big and running away with that game. Coach K had the luxury of being able to take him out and sit him the remainder of the game. This time they find themselves down one, and of course Tre Jones never even thinking about coming out of this one.
Jones and Duke trying to snap a Georgia State 7-0 run.
And now we're seeing that zone from Georgia State. Duke prepared for this. They talked about it in their shoot-around earlier today, but one thing it does is force you to shoot the ball from the perimeter. And who will be the guy stepping up, knocking down a shot for the Blue Devils?
2 to shoot. Jones weaves his way through and comes up with the bucket. And a charge on the other way.
Well, when I asked the question, it was rhetorical. We knew who was going to step up and make the play for the Blue Devils. The young man that's been making plays all night.
This was a scary moment on Tuesday night. Tre Jones colliding, his head hit. Obviously, everybody very cautious when the head is involved. So after only 9 minutes of play, he was taken out of the game, did not return, was cleared to play fully by the Duke medical staff. He's been excellent tonight. 15 points to lead the Blue Devils. But again, a collision with Joey Baker. And when you've been taking 2 hits like that in 1 week, everybody wants to be cautious, but he's still on the floor.
Well, fortunately, today was on the left side. It was on the right side, so it basically just evened things out, you know, squared it off a little bit. So, but he's a tough young man, I'll tell you that. Spent a lot of time around him since he was very young, and he's as tough as they get.
Joey Baker steps into that one and knocks it down, and Duke back leading by 3. Quickly the other way. Ivory tied at 29. Cavante Ivory.
Now, one thing the Georgia State Panthers are not doing is hanging their head when Duke scores against them. They are getting the ball out quickly and pushing it back down the floor, oftentimes putting Duke at a disadvantage and playing, you know, advantage basketball on the other end, coming up with good looks.
They will just not back away here in Cameron tonight. Stanley, shot clock running down, lost the handle, another turnover. And Georgia State takes the lead through Kane Williams. It's a 3.
And we mentioned earlier, Kane Williams 4 for 18 on the road against College of Charleston. And this is a all-conference preseason player. and he knew that he wanted to come in and have a better showing here against the Blue Devils.
It stays with Duke. Trey Jones is 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. The rest of Duke 0 for 8.
But you see this substitution by Coach K, getting Matthew Hurt and O'Connell back into the game because of this zone for Georgia State. And so immediately you see Rob Lanier going to match that and go back to man with those guys on the floor, because he knows that both those guys are capable of knocking down shots from beyond the arc.
Into Carey, lost the ball again. That's now 10 turnovers for Duke, and Georgia State has made them pay. Another transition three. This one's off the mark. It's an air ball, and the Cameron Crazies will let them know it.
But the ball stays with Georgia State, so still an opportunity to be able to extend their lead. And they get the ball down the floor so quickly, still 24 seconds on the shot clock, so they have more than enough time to run offense.
How impressed are you that they've been able to be so effective in transition and get the looks that they've gotten so far tonight?
Well, one of the things that they've been able to do is beat Duke's pressure, but they haven't been able to contain Trey Jones. 17 points for the sophomore here in the first half, as the Blue Devils still trail by 1.
Roberts a 3, misfires.
And give the Crazies credit for that shot. Roberts shot the air ball early. As soon as he catches the basketball, they're screaming air ball, and really his pride got to him on that one and takes another quick shot.
Another 3 off the mark. If your name's not Trey Jones and you play for Duke, you have not hit a 3 so far tonight. The Panthers take a 3-point lead into the final minute of this first half.
Nice move by Jalen Thomas there, going over that right shoulder with the left-hand jump hook and able to finish it.
Inside to Carey, double team, count the basket plus the foul.
This is going to be important for the Blue Devils all season long, establishing Vernon Carey Jr. on the post and having someone that can go get them a bucket when they need it, close to the rim, and Carey getting to that left hand, that dominant left hand, and able to finish off the glass, and an opportunity to tie this game at the free throw line.
Georgia State decides to take a timeout before Vernon Carey can attempt to complete his 3-point play. Tomorrow, you've got a great slate of college football on the ACC network. Duke taking on Syracuse to kick things off at 4 right here in Durham, followed against Louisville and NC State in our ACC network primetime matchup presented by Geico.
Got our guys calling the game. West Durham alongside with Roddy Jones and Eric Wood in the building tonight. Only watching the first half, though. They're going to split and leave at halftime to go to Carolina to watch game 2.
There they
guys hanging on over there. Good-looking crew over on the sideline. Working hard. Yeah, headed to Chapel Hill at halftime and going to watch the Carolina game tonight. So getting a lot of ACC basketball action in before the football action tomorrow.
Tied at 34 after the 3-point play from Carey, and he hustles off the court. A takeaway for the Blue Devils. And only a second and a half separates that shot clock from the first half clock. Coach K takes a timeout, his first, and they will talk things over to try and give themselves the lead right before intermission.
This is one of the very few times you will see the Blue Devils slow down and try to take the last shot of the half, as you mentioned, to get that lead or go in tied. But it's been a Trey Jones show here in this first half. 17 points, 6 for 9 shooting, 3 3-point field goals. And I'm not sure how many steals he has, but I can tell you right now, he's gotten his hands on the basketball a bunch of times.
3 steals for the sophomore Jones. The turnovers also the story tonight. Yes, Georgia State has 12. That's par for the course. This Duke team will turn over all the teams they play this season. The Blue Devils have 10, so the turnover margin only 2.
And that timeout allowed Coach K to get Vernon Carey back into the game for this final possession of the first half.
Ten seconds on the shot clock. Jones into attack mode. Can't get it, but hurt the follow finish.
Great execution by the Blue Devils and very good defense by the Panthers, knocking Trey Jones off of his path. Unable to finish, but Matthew Hurt, right position at the right time, able to finish it off. Trey Jones unable to get to the rim. Matthew Hurt coming in, giving Duke the 2-point lead at the half.
Second half action just seconds away. Alongside Corey Alexander, I'm Jay Hunter. Credit Georgia State. The Panthers have hung tough in this first half. What has been the difference in this game that has led to them being able to stick around?
Well, the three-point shooting for Georgia State has really allowed them to stay in the game. 50% from beyond the arc. Both teams have been sloppy with the basketball. Georgia State 12 turnovers, Duke 10 turnovers. But when you look at it, Duke's advantage on the interior could be the end-all to be-all to the story. Vernon Carey having his way on the inside, 11 points so far.
Trey Jones and Vernon Carey have combined for 28 of Duke's 36. Need somebody else to get hot to put away the Panthers. They've been pesky. They go right inside to Carey.
You see immediately Coach K recognizing where they have the advantage. And they go right inside to Carey, who's working on a double-double, 11 points and 9 rebounds in the first half, now up to 13 points. And we could see a lot more of him in the post this half, especially with Javin DeLaurier saddled with 4 fouls already.
Georgia State has a big man who's a freshman too, Joe Jones. They are really excited about Rob Ladier's first freshman class. Jones, a half-brother of Greg Oden, and he could be a terrific player for the Panthers. Runs the floor well too. Beat Carey down, they didn't get it to him. Kept alive by Allen, scooped up and in, and just like that, we're back tied at 38.
And everyone from both sides knew that Georgia State would not back down at all. Rob Lanier told us they were going to come in and play their style of play. And he says if Duke is better at it than us, then so be it, but we're going to do what we do best.
Right now, no answer inside for Vernon Carey.
And that's really the biggest difference between these two teams. Trey Jones has been spectacular, but the guards from Georgia State have been combined as well. But I'm not sure if Georgia State has anything to match what Vernon Carey can do on the interior.
Jones in transition, pull up, pop, can't find the bottom. Offensive rebound, Stanley, and it's swatted away. Will stay with the Blue Devils.
Georgia State on the move, attacking the paint, just unable to finish, but sticking with it. The offensive rebound, an opportunity to put it back in, but to Allen, and Vernon Carey able to have his way. No one can contend on him with him on that interior for Georgia State right now. And if I'm Duke, I continue to force feed Carey.
Set up on the post instead of 3. Off the mark from Jack White. And a foul called underneath. It'll be Georgia State basketball.
Matthew Hurt going over the back on that possession, but I love Hurt's aggressiveness attacking the glass, trying to come up with offensive rebounds. And what Coach K has done now, he's gone with a bigger lineup, moving Jack White over to the 3 position on the floor alongside with Carey and Hurt.
That's a forced shot by Roberts. Leads to a three. Hurt. Way misfiring.
And we've seen two great shooters miss too badly and leading to a run-out layup for Allen on the other end. And a part of that has to do with the fact that there's no one in the building that would expect to see Matthew Hurt, for as great of a shooter as he is, to basically miss the rim and that ball ricocheting off, leading to a fast break on the other end.
Open again. This time again. At least he hits rim. But something is off for Matthew Hurt. He came into this game 50% from three. Has not hit one tonight.
And you see, because no one else outside of Trey Jones has been able to knock down the shot from beyond the arc, when Bernie Carey catches the basketball, there are three Georgia State defenders surrounding him. Nowhere for him to go on that possession. As you see right there, all eyes on Carey. Damon Wilson steps in, picks up the foul, but still nowhere to go for Carey on that possession. And right now, Rob Lanier going to force someone outside of Carey to beat him from the perimeter.
Jones tries a three. Buries it. Trey Jones has been the man tonight.
I'm not sure if he's the guy you want to help off of. Trey Jones is the one guy who has made a three-pointer for the Blue Devils. You're going to have to stay home on him and find another way to double-team Carey, but great adjustment by Coach K to have Trey Jones being the guy that enters the basketball. But I guess you don't last 40 years in the business if you don't know what you're doing. And Coach K with a great design here. And it's simple basketball. Allow your guy that's hot from the perimeter, enter the post. If they double team, kick it back out, allow him to knock down the three, and I bet you they don't double off Trey Jones the next time.
The story headed into this game all night, as Coach K calls his team over while the officials take a look at the monitor, was that this is a balanced scoring Duke team. Not a single Blue Devil had scored 20 or more entering tonight. Well, throw that script right out. This is Trey Jones's night. Without him, this Blue Devils team would be losing to Georgia State. Instead, he has 20 of Duke's 43. We'll step aside while the officials look at the monitor. Blue Devils hanging on to that three-point edge.
During the timeout, our officials going over to the monitor, and a classic hook and hold on Cavante Ivory here, holding Jack White. As you see in the NCAA rulebook, the illegal contact caused by hooking an opponent over or under the arm with the clamp to deceive official into believing it was caused by opponent. And right there, Jack White unable to chase that rebound because Ivory has him hooked and held, resulting in a flagrant one. Jack White at the free throw line for two shots.
Makes the second after missing the first. He's Corey Alexander. I'm Jay Alter. So Corey, Duke really has not been able to separate themselves so far tonight. Trey Jones has done his part. He leads the Blue Devils with 20, but Georgia State has hung around. What can they do to really kind of put this game out of reach?
Well, they're going to need for Jack White, for O'Connell, for Matthew Hurt, someone outside of Trey Jones to make a shot from beyond the three-point arc.
The Trey Jones show continues, ties a career high with 22.
And with so much attention being paid to the way that he shot the basketball, he's able to find a lane to the rim.
Kept in play by Stanley. This is how the Blue Devils want to play. Everything but the finish. Carey there, and he draws a foul. Trey Jones with the bucket on the other end. Shades of Wojo slapping the floor. That's what the Cameron Crazies love to see. Vernon Carey missed the first foul shot. This is his second. And it rattles out as well. A foul called against Georgia State, and the frustration from Justin Roberts. It'll be Duke basketball as the crowd has grown into this game with every whistle that goes against the Panthers.
And this is one of the things that you have to be prepared for when you come to Cameron. At some point during the game, whether you're up, you're down, whatever the score is, Duke is going to make a run. And when they make that run, how do you respond when the crazies get on their feet, when the team starts to slap the floor and everything is against you? And this is what Rob Lanier will find out about his Georgia State Panthers, because right now the Blue Devils have found some momentum.
Jones, 2 on the timer, had to let it fly, blocked away. There's 1 second on the shot clock for Duke to try and make something happen. You imagine they'll try and get Carey a look inside.
I would honestly try my best to see if I could throw it up to Cassius Stanley above the rim where only he can get it.
They go, it falls to Stanley, but the shot clock had already buzzed. You know, we showed you Trey Jones slapping the floor. You asked Coach K, where does he rank in terms of on-ball defenders? He said #1, best we've had in 40 years.
And I honestly forgot about Wojo, to be completely honest. I talked about Bobby Hurley and Tommy Amaker, 2 of the consummate leaders that Coach K has ever had at the point guard position, and he immediately mentioned Wojciechowski, 1997 National Defensive Player of the Year. And I can go back to days playing against Wojo. Was a great defender, but I can remember seeing the Blue Devils smacking the floor. And of course, that's one of the things that will get the largest ovation and the most noise from this crowd, like we saw a few possessions ago.
Foul was on the floor, so 20 seconds on the shot clock for Georgia State. This is a Panthers team. Yes, they've been to the NCAA tournament each of the last 2 seasons, but they lost 71% of their scoring from a year ago and their head coach. And yet they've hung in this game. Iron unkind there. Jones the other way. It rolls in, and that's a career high for Trey Jones. Blue Devils on an 8-0 run, and they've tied their largest lead of the game.
And Kane Williams to the rim, unable to finish it. But Trey Jones, when he gets the basketball in his hands, one-man fast break, 1-on-3 doesn't matter when you get there first. And Trey Jones showing off his elite athleticism and the ability to finish at the rim.
The ball bouncing unkindly in a big way for Georgia State, and it's allowed Duke to grow this lead. Hoop in the horn for Trey Jones.
Off of another missed shot, Trey Jones again, one-man fast break. You see 5 defenders from Georgia State in the picture, only one white jersey, and that one white jersey wins. I can tell you right now, when you watch this, I can tell you 3 guys that missed number 3. One would be Zion Williamson, one would be R.J. Barrett, and the other Cam Reddish. They missed this young man right here.
27 points for Jones. He adds to his career high. It's an 11-0 run for the Blue Devils. Georgia State has let this game get away from them after it was tied at 40. Need a basket in a big way. Can't get the finish. A 3 from Baker.
And I'm just waiting for that 1-3 from someone outside of Trey Jones to bring the house down. Joey Baker with a good look on that possession, unable to finish it.
When you talk about Trey Jones, everybody thinks of him from a year ago, the assist man. He was the guy dishing it out. No player in Duke history had a better assist-to-turnover ratio. Now he could be the best scorer on this year's team. And he's got a career high tonight, more than all his Blue Devil teammates as we step aside.
One of the reasons why Trey Jones is a first-team all-preseason ACC performer and a candidate for ACC Player of the Year is his ability to put his team on his back and make plays for himself or others. 2 instances of where Trey has just become a one-man fast break. You see 5 blue shirts in the jersey, in the shot, and only 1 white jersey, but that 1 white jersey is able to win because Trey Jones has had himself a ball game.
This game was once tied at 40. Since then, Georgia State has gone on a 3-minute and 30-second scoring drought, and Trey Jones has 10 of Duke's 11. Needed that 3, did not go.
Well, that's the area where Georgia State was able to be successful in the first half. They were able to shoot 50% from beyond the arc. They haven't had that type of fortune here in the second half, and it's part of the reason why Duke has been able to create some separation.
Wendell Moore up and under. Second effort falls. Corey Allen, and that's a big bucket that stops the 13-0 Blue Devil run.
And right now, you know, one of the things that Coach K talked to us about was, and we talked about the different styles of offenses that Duke has played against in their 4 games this year. And he told us that Georgia State would try to attack them off the dribble. And you see guys like Kane Williams, Corey Allen, the ability to make plays for themselves getting into the paint. And that's what you have to do against a Duke team that's often denying passes on the perimeter.
Triple team comes on Jones, and he loses the handle. This is why Georgia State was successful in the first half. Get a turnover, get it up the floor quickly. They've lost that in the last 5 minutes. Trying at 3 and fouled. Kane Williams will head to the line for 3 free throws.
And one of the areas of emphasis this year with the new rules is making sure that you are not flopping, kicking out your legs to draw fouls. And Coach K having a conversation with the officials right now after Trey Jones basically telling them he kicked out his leg on that 3 to draw the call. And we'll see.
Take a look at it.
Kane Williams up top going up. I believe Kane Williams got away with one right there because outside of him kicking out that left leg, Trey Jones would have never made contact. There was no contact on the top of that shot.
Absolutely right. So Williams makes 2 of 3 at the line. Georgia State back to a single-digit deficit. You have Verdon Carey and Trey Jones out there, who respectively have 15 and 27.
So now one thing that we're seeing from the Blue Devils, and we saw this with Cole Anthony earlier in the year, North Carolina can't afford to take Cole Anthony off the court. And it's looking today as though Coach K can't afford to take Trey Jones off the court. And when you're talking about guys being this important to their teams, it does a number of things. One, it lessens the level of defense that you're able to play because you can't afford to get in foul trouble. And more importantly, it makes it to where these guys cannot get hurt because too much of their production relies on the success of this year's team. And they've got to find a way to make sure they keep Trey Jones rested because he can play many games at 40 minutes. You look at the personnel, Wendell Moore back on the floor alongside with Goldwire. And Rob Lanier going to make this team beat him from the outside, going back to the zone defense, and they come up with their stop because of it.
Slapped out of bounds, and we have a stop of the action. Now the Trey Jones show is taken over. He's gifted Duke a 9-point advantage. Nightcap of our ACC Network doubleheader right down the road of Tobacco Road. Cole Anthony of North Carolina hosting Gardner-Webb. We will get you right out to UNC right after we finish here at Durham. And the guard show will continue. Cole Anthony, he's dessert, but Trey Jones has been the entree. Corey Alexander, a career-high 27 points. He's been terrific.
And with 11:52 remaining, I'm sure he's not done. But it continues, regardless of his offensive numbers, continues to apply the pressure defensively. And that's what Coach K loves about him most.
Kept alive by the freshman Joe Jones, but a shot clock violation.
Rob Lanier electing to stay in the zone defense. And going to force someone outside. And this is partly to try to keep Trey Jones out of the paint, as well as try to find a way to stop Vernon Carey under the basket. Carey still able to get his hands on the basketball and get to the free throw line. But the Panthers have realized they can't guard Vernon Carey one-on-one, so the zone is going to have to help him. And you see 3 blue jerseys around Carey as he's going up to try to finish that one. He's going to have to earn it at the free throw line.
Shooting 3 of 7 from the foul line tonight, making 4 of 8.
Yeah, I'm really, happy to see the way that Vernon Carey has transformed his game playing here at Duke. In high school, he was always a guy that floated on the perimeter a lot and had the ability to score on the block. He just didn't go down there as often as he probably should, because as you can see, he can dominate down there. Often settle for threes and can make plays off the dribble, but oftentimes when you come and you play for a legend like Mike Krzyzewski, they get the best out of you. As Coach K still is animated on the sideline.
Wants him to grab the
Year
ball.
40.
Yeah. Spry as ever.
What did he tell me today? I asked him if he was holding something in his pocket. He said, Corey, I've been here 40 years. I would have to have a lot of pockets for that.
Well, what it was this full court pressure that we've seen all season long from Coach K. I mean, the last time that they really played this style of defense, you would truly have to go back more than 10 years that they've wanted to go full court for 40 minutes.
Well, and part of it, too, is he has the depth to be able to do it this year. When you got Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish, 3 of the top 10 picks in the NBA draft, oftentimes it's difficult to take those guys off the court. We see how important Trey Jones is, so it was hard to take him off the court. So there was really only one position that he was doing a lot of substituting a year ago, and he made that very clear. But with this group, he's going to play 10 guys. And so knowing that, he can extend that pressure full court and still allow guys to be able to play fresh.
Baker hits the triple. And that's what we saw in shoot-around today. After the made basket, get back on D like that. Trey Jones picks the pocket and was fouled on his way to the rim.
Well, in transition, Trey Jones had an opportunity. He had a choice. He's running down the floor. He's got the basketball in his hand. And you see the great defensive play that he makes after the beautiful assist, coming up with the steal. But the prior possession, he's got the basketball in his hands, running down the middle of the floor. He's got Matthew Hurt, great shooter from Minnesota, same place as he's from. And he's also got Joey Baker on the wing. He passes up Hurt, goes to Baker. Baker pays it off by being the first person outside of Trey Jones to make a three-pointer in the Blue Devil uniform.
Oh, a monster underneath, but just could not get the slam dunk to fall. But Vernon Carey, he is a beast. And a charge taken by the freshman, getting it done on both ends of the floor.
And Vernon Carey seeing that the entire way, and it's already set. Now, Kane Williams did jump to the side, but still makes contact with Carey. Carey does a good job of not moving into the contact, but staying still and absorbing that and taking the charge.
Fourth foul against the junior Kane Williams. leading scorer for the Panthers this season. Played so well in the first half, but Duke's defense just relentless and has worn this Panthers team down. Extra pass, Baker again, he's got it! Largest lead of the game for Duke.
Well, Joey Baker now allowing Trey Jones to get his assist numbers up.
And on the other end, Carey delivers a block. Everything clicking for the Blue Devils now.
And again, second half, of course, I'm sure they got an inspired talk.
The hustle continues.
On one end of the floor, great ball movement by the Blue Devils. The extra pass to find Joey Baker in the corner. Trey Jones picks up an assist. But on the other end of the floor, two back-to-back block shots. Coach K says it's a defensive team, and they're showing it here at Cameron.
A 20-4 run has got this Cameron crowd finally in full voice on this Friday night. This game was tied at 40, but Corey Alexander, the defense has really breathed life into this game for the Blue Devils.
It really has, and that's the way this Duke team is going to be this year. They're going to have to get stops to be successful, and we've seen that in the second half. They had a hard time defending the Panthers in the first half because they were turning the basketball over, allowing Georgia State to get opportunities in transition when Duke didn't have his defense set. But with his defense set, we can see the Blue Devils are extremely difficult to compete with.
Coach K still working on the huddle. We will remind you, Disney Plus finally here. You can start streaming the best of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Nat Geo, you name it. It's all ad-free, wherever and whenever, at your fingertips. DisneyPlus.com. Go there if you have not already today. What's your favorite Disney movie?
I would probably have to say Toy Story.
Classic, can't beat it.
Well, and again, of course, you know, my son growing up thought he was Buzz Lightyear, and I had to play that up. So I bought a tremendous amount of Buzz Lightyear paraphernalia. I think Disney might owe me some checks over that.
They've played you plenty. I'm waiting for a Vernon Carey dunk so I can say to infinity and beyond. Instead, a Trey Jones three goes begging. Well, it took a little while. It was a two-point game at halftime, but this Cameron crazy crowd has come alive on this Friday night. They go into the post. And they say it went off Carey last, Georgia State basketball.
But what the zone has done, it has taken Carey out of the mix. But give Joey Baker credit for coming in and confidently taking and making a couple of threes, which has loosened up things on the interior for Carey, because now you got to pay attention to the shooters on the outside.
Corey Allen, two foul shots coming. Man, Trey Jones has been dogging Allen all night. Even when he gets aggressive and hedges, he stays with the play from behind, making it difficult.
Yeah, but one thing, I'll give Corey Allen a lot of credit, though. He hasn't backed down either. He's found his way into that paint and continues to stay aggressive and attacking. And one of the things, of course, when you know, if you're Rob Lanier, you bring your team into this environment. Well, Duke, as of Monday, most likely will be the #1 team in the country. There are very few teams that Rob Lanier, if any at all, is going to play against that are like the Duke Blue Devils, especially in this environment. So you're learning a lot about your team. Remember, this is only game 3 for Rob Lanier and this group. And so when you consider what the way that they performed, especially in the first half, and what they've been able to do, of course, on the offensive end of the floor in that first half, they can take a lot of things away from this, but they're not going to, give up on this last 8.5 minutes. They're going to do everything they can to try to make this a ball game.
And from the Duke perspective, a lot would say, okay, well, we expected the Blue Devils to eventually win this game. We saw earlier this week that is not always the case, with Evansville going in to Lexington and leaving with a win against Kentucky. So Duke has played their best basketball the last 5 minutes, and that's why they're up by 14. Contested shot. 2 seconds on the timer, somehow kept alive, and that's a shot clock violation.
But that's a great example where Georgia State, even though giving up 2 offensive rebounds, does not concede points. Coming up with the block shot, forcing the shot clock violation, and continuing to play. And these are all learning times for Rob Lanier's team. But, close to 8 minutes remaining in this game, they're not going to give up. They still feel as though this is a winnable game.
Cassius Stanley somehow gets through the double team, and a foul comes in. Ivory got him right on the arm. We step aside. Blue Devils finally firing on all cylinders, leading by 14. November 15th, a day Mike Krzyzewski will always remember. It was 8 years ago to the night that Coach K passed his mentor, Bobby Knight, on the all-time wins list. It was at Madison Square Garden, a great game to beat Michigan State, and there he is with his mentor as he passed him with 9:03.
Of course, Bobby Knight passing the great Dean Smith. And then, of course, when you think about the lineage of college basketball and who would be the 4 coaches on that Mount Rushmore, I can tell you 2 for certain. John Wooden,
and
Coach K.
Mike Krzyzewski.
I honestly have to say the Dean Smith. That 4th one, that's tough.
Still to be determined, I would say. How about that?
No.
Oh, currently, if we just did it right now?
Is it Bobby Knight?
I think it would have to be.
I think it has to be. I mean, because when you look at it, and with what they've done, Bobby Knight, I believe, with 900 wins in his career.
I know it's
multiple national championships.
Probably the recency bias affecting me, but tough to leave Roy Williams off that list. And again, his career is unfinished, whereas Knight's, his resume is complete.
Yeah, again, I love Roy. I take nothing away from
But you're right, to enter the class of Krzyzewski and Wooden and Dean Smith, certainly, yeah.
But
I agree.
so here's my next question to you, and we're on a talking about the Duke game, talking about North Carolina. Do you replace Dean with Roy?
Oh, you'd have to ask a Tar Heel. You'd have to ask a Tar Heel.
I can tell you right now.
It's well, the problem
most
is
Tar Heels will say no.
No, but it's unfinished. That's the thing. But I think most Tar Heel fans that would be sacrilegious to even offer the thought. Awkward shot, didn't get it away cleanly. But Mike Krzyzewski, you talk about his 40-year career with the Blue Devils, and that is a night, to have your mentor in the building, to be at Madison Square Garden. That is a night that he will remember for a very, very, very long time. Outside of the national championships, probably the most special night he's had.
So is that more special than 1,000 wins, becoming Coach 1K? See, when you make these statements,
I know you got to back them up.
Because again, Pat Summitt, I believe, is the only other Division I coach to ever have 1,000 wins. And so when you put him in that category, that's something that John Wooden did not do. 11 national titles for John Wooden. Most likely that's something that will not happen for Coach K. So with those 2, of course, we know they're definitely on that Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches. And again, reaching that 1,000 mark, that's got to be pretty special. It also happened at Madison Square Garden.
I was going to say, where St. John's in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, where the 2K Empire Classic will continue for these Duke Blue Devils coming up next week.
A 15-point lead here for Coach K, and when you watch him and shoot around like we did today, the vibrancy, the effort, everything is still there like he was a first-year head coach, like Rob Lanier on the other sideline.
And I love the fact that he was the one on the floor doing the majority of the coaching. Again, and Coach K has built a resume, of course, to where it'd be easy for him to sit on the sideline and allow his assistant coaches, who are all great coaches and have been with him long enough to know exactly what he wants, for them to be able to run practice. But he's the guy at the forefront of the practice and talking to the players and instructing. And I love seeing that from him in his 40th season.
And he told us the one thing we have worked on every day since September 25th, defense. That is the foundation of this year's team.
Well, and he can tell you for certain that all of his national championship teams, the 2014-2015 team where Tyus Jones was the leading guard on that team that won a national championship. You go back to 2010 where Nolan Smith and John Shire, his two assistant coaches on the bench, was a great defensive team. Of course, you go back to 2001, Jay Williams, Booz, and those guys, great defensive team. Now, and then 91 and 92, we already talked about them. Now, they get credit for being a lot of great offensive players, but what they did defensively, you think about Shane Battier on that 01 team, National Defensive Player of the Year. You had a lot of that going, and this team right now, their calling card is defense, and it's going to be interesting to see how good they can be this year.
And it all depends on the personnel. Do I have the players that we can go back to the style that he liked? I mean, if you asked him, he prefers to play this way.
Well, this is the way that he played.
Right.
So when you think about it, he played for Bob Knight. Bob Knight was an in-your-face, man-to-man coach, and this is the way that Coach K played at West Point.
Jones, pull-up pop. One of the few shots that hasn't fallen for him today. O'Connell, quick trigger. He can't hit. And it's Joe Jones on the other end who heads to the foul line. Georgia State, credit the Panthers. They have not quit tonight. This is a young group under a first-year head coach coming into an intimidating environment here on a Friday night in Durham, and they have accounted themselves extremely well.
They can't quit. That guy right there on the sideline, Rob Lanier, he has no quit in him, which means that this team cannot quit.
Of course, Ron Hunter moving on, taking the Tulane job. This is a Panthers team that lost 71% of their scoring for the team that won the Sun Belt and made the tournament a year ago. So this is a rebuild in year one, but not if you talk to Coach Lanier.
It's not. And Coach Lanier, of course, we talked to him earlier today, and great getting to see what he has envisioned for the future of this program. And you're talking about one of the true leaders, amongst basketball coaches, regardless as to whether he was a head coach, associate head coach, assistant coach, whatever it may be, and, does that with his leadership and his website that he created his own, coachspeak.net. And we talked to him a lot about that, and he gets a lot of input from other coaches, not only basketball coaches, but life coaches and people that are, involved and committed to establishing and helping youth become better people through sport.
Another whistle. That goes against Joe Jones inside. That freshman battle has been a good one to watch between Jones, the half-brother of Greg Oden, and Vernon Carey Jr. inside.
And this has been a good performance for Vernon Carey. In my opinion, Duke needed this performance from him because I believe that he's going to have to be their second-best player this year in order to be successful, because they've got to have that presence on the interior that they can go to get a bucket when they need it. Vernon Carey is more than capable of doing that. But I think that they needed this performance from him and really from Georgia State to keep this game close so that, Duke knew that they could go down to Vernon Carey in tight spots and he can produce.
Outside of Trey Jones, Vernon Carey has been really the only other guy that the Blue Devils have relied on tonight. He's up to 18 points and 12 rebounds, his second career double-double. Backdoor wide open, nifty scoop to the hoop. The sophomore Nelson Phillips.
And that's what you're going to get against Duke when they play in the passing lanes and put so much pressure on you, trying to deny you running your offense. There are going to be backdoor opportunities, and that's one Vernon Carey on that possession decided not to contend with. And he's going to have to be a rim protector for this team as well.
Great offensive rebound by Matthew Hurt.
And you see that play right there. So off an offensive rebound, the best time to shoot a three, Trey Jones, who's having a career night shooting the ball extremely well, is not concerned about getting more points. He's concerned about making the right play for his team and does just that, getting the assist for Carey.
Carey up to 20. In the previous 3 games to start the year, no Blue Devil hit 20. Balanced scoring was the answer to that. And now both Trey Jones and Vernon Carey have hit 20-plus tonight.
And moving forward, I'm not going to say that Trey Jones and Vernon Carey both have to average 20 points per game. But this is going to be more of a realistic game for the Blue Devils. They're going to have those two guys having big offensive performances and having other players, the Joey Bakers and Matthew Hurts, Cassius Stanley, each and every one stepping up. But one thing that Duke can rely on, they've got a 1-2 combo that can be dynamite all season long. Trey Jones to Vernon Carey. Get used to hearing that combo.
We are minutes away from tip-off in Chapel Hill. The doubleheader of Tobacco Road continues on the ACC network, but we are not done in Durham. At least the Cameron Crazies aren't. 2:50 still on the clock, and Duke with a 15-point lead over Georgia State.
Tar Heels look like they're ready to go.
Yeah, that looked like a fun scene. That looked like a post-game.
Did not see Armando Bacot in that mix, though. Meaning that the freshman may be sitting this one out. Got a concussion last week. May not see him in the game tonight.
What do you think the key for North Carolina this season is if they're going to contend in the ACC and for the national championship?
They got to find someone other than Cole Anthony to give them production. Justin Pierce had a huge game for them. I believe they played at UNC Wilmington last week. But they're going to getting Brandon Robinson back would really help, getting him healthy. But they're going to have to find other pieces because when they play against the Virginias and the Dukes and the good defensive teams in the ACC, they are going to load up on Cole Anthony and force someone else to beat him. They're going to have other players step up.
Almost ripped away from Cassius Stanley. Defense will be the calling card for this Duke team all season long. That's what started their run. This game was once tied at 40, but a really strong defensive effort gave the Blue Devils some separation. Double team came for Jones. That means someone's open. Cassius Stanley can't make him pay. But an offensive rebound again by Hurt. And Duke will pull it out and take their time.
2 for $1. Shoot it again, Cassius.
Came into this game shooting an impressive 82%. That number will come down. He's 2 of 12 tonight.
But Georgia State forced him to be a jump shooter. And Duke did not get out in transition as often. We've seen Cassius coming up with steals and finishing at the other end of the floor with those explosive dunks. But I can tell you this, he is a very important piece to this Blue Devils lineup because he is really the guy on the wing that allows them to go back to that old school defense. His ability to deny the basketball on the wing and recover, block shots, make plays on the defensive end of the floor. And I know Coach K is extremely excited about having Cassius in their lineup, but he was a late sign. Cassius wasn't an early guy, but he was a great get for the Blue Devils coming across country to play in the ACC.
Comes from the same high school as Marvin Bagley, Sierra Canyon out in Los Angeles. And it was a great pickup. You're right, really rounded out this class. And I don't think they'd be able to play the style of defense that they're going to play without him.
I agree. You know, he makes them different defensively. And again, with this team, of course, not being a great shooting team or a great offensive team, they're going to have to score points off their defense. Cassius Stanley and Trey Jones together in a backcourt can make it extremely difficult on opposing guards.
While we're at a timeout, we'll remind you, tomorrow start your college football Saturday right here on the ACC Network. The Huddle gets you set for a terrific weekend slate of ACC games. Clemson right now in the college football playoff trying to stay undefeated against Wake Forest. And of course, Duke fans ready for their game against Syracuse, 4 o'clock on the ACC Network. That all after the huddle kicks things off at 11. Well, it has been Trey Jones's night. A career-high 31 points to lead Duke. Really, when they needed him, Georgia State battled all night long. They were tied in this game at 40. I said to you, what are the Blue Devils going to do to create some separation? You said, well, someone else has to step up. Instead, Trey Jones really just took it over himself.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because the 2 huge threes from Joey Baker really loosened things up for everyone in the white uniform. Of course, Trey Jones continued his stellar performance, but I think those 2 back-to-back threes by Baker really helped Duke push themselves away from Georgia State.
Not to mention Vernon Carey's had a huge performance, a double-double for the freshman. Keeps that play alive. Great hustle all night long from both teams. Georgia State has not quit. A scoop and score there for Corey Allen.
For the record, love that young man's first name and initials.
CA to CA.
Well, we got little CA coming up next. He hates it when I call him that, but he calls me the same. So Cole Anthony is little CA. Carmelo Anthony is medium CA. Glad to see my big brother, well, my little brother, signing back with the Portland Trail Blazers, playing in the NBA. So good news yesterday coming from that.
He's still got game left in him.
Oh, he's got a lot of game left.
Is that a good situation for him in Portland? Did he really wait for the right one?
I mean, well, I'm not sure. I think he would have taken whichever one came, but it's fortunate that Portland was, because, of course, with Zach Collins being injured, it opens up a lot of minutes at the power forward position. And in Portland, who came off of a Western Conference Finals a year ago, 4-8 so far on this young season. So a great situation for Melo going in. I'm sure Coach K is very happy about that. Coach Melo to 3 Olympic gold medals. And one thing's for certain, Coach K counts all those guys on those Olympic teams.
Absolutely.
116 NBA players coached.
Now, Georgia State gave Duke a test, but the Blue Devils prevail 74-63, and Coach K and Duke will likely be the #1 team in the country come Monday.
And one of the best defensive teams in the country, led by Trey Jones, whose offense was on display tonight.
For Corey Alexander and our entire crew, I'm Jay Alter saying so long from Durham. Let's get you the Chapel Hill UNC tips off next.